Welcome to Doing Things Differently. In this series of podcasts, I'm talking to various peoples who are taking different approaches to things that life and their career poses to them. It's not about just reading the latest blog and taking that advice. It's about reaching a whole new level of competence and capabilities by really exploring and thinking about what you're doing, personalizing it, and then moving it into how you can do things differently to get to where you want to be. In this episode, I'm going to be talking to Matt. He is a data scientist who has a very interesting background, and I'd like to welcome him to the show today to talk about his experience. Welcome, Matt.
Hey, thanks for having me, Phil.
Yes, we've been connected on LinkedIn for a while, and actually, that's really kind of where I noticed the amount and quality of post that you put out. I one of the things social media is good at is encouraging you to pump out a lot of material, but there's not a lot of people who are really producing high quality material, seeking to educate and help others versus just a motivational quote or a company post, but they're really thinking about things and putting that material out with the goal of helping the community and building a stronger social community within the network and expanding beyond. So that was where we originally talked about first.
Yeah, it's been a couple of years now since I really began my LinkedIn journey, and actually I started out with a bang, and had one of my very first posts go like globally viral.
Wow.
With a couple million views, a couple thousand reactions, and hundreds of comments. And what I gained from that was an immediate following, and an audience to talk to, and a community to engage with. And what I found actually very quickly after that was it's not about finding virality, and chasing engagement metrics. It's really about building communities, helping others, and driving other people to grow how they want to. And I'm speaking specifically about like LinkedIn and how I engage with my followers on LinkedIn. I think every other social network has different target demographics, and different the communities that grow organically on different social networks are looking to gain a different aspect of culture or growth. But LinkedIn, obviously, the professional social network, is all about bettering yourself, growing as a professional, and trying to find your unique value proposition. And that's what I've been trying to help people find now for a couple of years.
So before we get in specifically and talk too much about LinkedIn, why don't you give the audience a brief background of kind of your journey? You and I come from a similar background, energy, but we've branched out, and you branched out into more. So let's talk a little bit about kind of your journey and what caused you to really say, hey, I want to expand.
Yeah. So I started out professionally as a geologist working at ConocoPhillips. Worked there for 6 years before I got bucked off the ride in 2018. Was laid off. I couldn't find another geology job to save my life. I mean, there were so many other applicants to those positions. It seemingly like the whole industry was laid off at the time, and that amount of competition really made me wonder, A, if I wanted to be continue as a geologist, and B, if I wanted to remain in the oil industry. But while I was ruminating on those things, I also knew that I couldn't spend all of my time just sitting there applying to new job after new job. I needed to continue learning new skills and bettering myself in the meantime. So I ended up choosing to learn how to code in Python, learn data analysis, statistical modeling, and data science. I was initially doing that, on my own individually, but quite quickly transitioned into taking a data science bootcamp online through a company called Thinkful. And after 2 or 3 months of working through that bootcamp, basically full time, I had the realization that I actually enjoyed doing data analysis and data science, and I could see myself pivoting my career completely away from geology into data science. And the benefit of that mindset shift was that I immediately unlocked essentially the entire nation and entire industries to future potential jobs.
So what started out as kind of exploring it as maybe use it within geology quickly became, wow, I can do anything with this.
Yeah, exactly. And that was a light bulb moment when I was like, wow, I'll be able to move back closer to family in the Midwest. I'll be able to be employed by any industry that I'd like. I'm not tied to the hip to the energy industry or Houston for that matter. And that was it felt so relieving, and it felt like it opened up so many doors that I was just gung-ho to keep going. And it was only, I don't know, 4 or 5 months later after that I ended up landing my first data science job at a data science consulting company in Houston. Worked there for 18 months before taking a job with General Mills and moving my family back to our Midwestern roots in Minneapolis, Minnesota, where I'm now, and I'm actually again on the move.
Yes. So let's talk about your use of social media in terms of what you see the real use of it is beyond just talking about they're sharing a news article or something like that. What's your approach that really kind of launched you, and as you said earlier, the post went viral and surprised you and opened up that world. So I'm interested in hearing your approach to social media.
Yeah, so I take a view on it that it's not me sharing my life, it's me sharing my knowledge.
Okay.
And I've found that there are lots of people that are interested in consuming that, in learning from me, and in following in my footsteps. There's obviously a huge boom in data science jobs, and people are really interested in making pivots from oil and gas energy jobs to data science, but really from any profession. I was just had a LinkedIn conversation with a guy who's a high school orchestra conductor,
Oh, wow.
and he's thinking about moving into data science. So like people from all walks of life are looking at this path, and they're looking for um, kind of informal mentors and career guidance on how best to navigate what is not a simple pivot. Learning how to code, learning data science, machine learning is that it's not a small task to do, and um, they're seeking mentorship, and so that's really what one of my main goals is to help educate and build a community around making a career pivot broadly, and then specifically into data science. And even more specifically, I tend to focus on helping people go from oil and gas jobs into data science.
Yeah, it's been fascinating. We like coming from the energy and oil and gas, every time there's a boom, you get a huge influx of people, and then there's a bust, and then a lot of people leave. Then it seems like you start getting to the point where you start going to conferences and you hear all the executives saying, we don't know if we'll be able to keep talent, and then I'm thinking in the back of my mind, well, it's because every time the commodity price goes down, people get dumped. And after one or two cycles, guess what? I'd rather work in an environment where things are more stable and it's not up to the whims of the commodities market, whether I have a job or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That's one of the
definitely.
biggest challenges, I think, in working in a commodity from an employee standpoint, and I'm sure from an employer standpoint in terms of hiring. I mean, I get it can be challenging financial circumstances, but it's a tough ride.
Right. And so like I'm at this point, I'm very happy that I'm, not in the oil and gas industry anymore. I'm happy to be off the ride. I do miss, thinking about geological problems and doing geology, but I found that data science still has that analytical, scientific approach to the job. So I'm finding that I can still be interested in, now it's setting sales prices on a box of Honey Nut Cheerios at Walmart, whereas previously it was estimating the amount of oil in the ground. You know, completely different problems, but still you're taking a scientific approach to understanding the uncertainties and quantifying, um, the unknowns about the world.
Yes. In terms of data scientists, it's it's a huge field. I'm kind of curious your specific focus within data data science. What are kind of the subgroups, and what part do you kind of have focused on?
Yeah, data science is, uh, in some aspects it's still like an emerging field and emerging job title. So what we're seeing right now in, I don't even want to say the industry, but in data science jobs in particular, we're seeing, them being, uh, cut up into smaller portions and, discretely allocated around, sort of how I think of engineering, roles in the energy business. You've got drilling engineers, you've got cementing engineers, you've got structural engineers, mechanical engineers, so many different subfields of engineering. And data science doesn't really have, that amount of uniqueness yet to it, but each job and each company has its own unique needs. So I do see, a diversification, coming from, for the data science field. We're starting to see it mainly in, areas of like computer vision,
Okay.
techniques, and NLP, or natural language processing. So like text-based stuff. Those are two big camps.
Okay.
And then there's like a messy middle of lots of stuff. So I'm in the messy middle.
Okay.
I'm not so much concerned about learning, and diving deep into computer vision, approaches and solving those sorts of problems, although I do find them really interesting. But where I'm coming from is trying to enable and unlock more value for the company. And I'm taking a value-minded approach to solving the problems in front of me. That sounds like a broad, vague statement, but it helps me be way more aligned to the business and the business's needs than chasing, technical, um, understanding and diving deeper into specific niches. I'm trying to align data sciences group work right now at General Mills to what we are trying to deliver as a business, really.
Okay, so you're talking, yeah, explain this value-minded approach in terms of, is it in terms of looking, is it focusing specific on business problems you can solve with data science, or is it broader than that?
Yeah, so I mean, specifically what I've been doing at General Mills now has been like optimizing our sales and promotions at grocery stores, trying to drive increased profit and revenue. But what the team has historically been concerned about has been tweaking our modeling approach to drive increases in model accuracy and model metrics, and not thinking so much about the dollars that we are enabling and bringing back into the business. So I've been basically nonstop asking about where, what value we are looking to unlock, where we are driving those increases in value delivery, and making more explicit the link between our modeling work and the increases in revenue and profit that we are bringing back into the company.
Okay, so it's focusing on modeling, but to drive a specific business function.
Yeah, a specific business outcome. I mean, data science largely as a role is a service role. It exists as in service of the business. There are like some outliers in terms of like where data science sits in some of the tech companies, where it sits higher up and it is its own value driver, and it's a core strategic component of the business. Something like Stitch Fix or Netflix, or even Amazon, where they are trying to where data science is enabling the business to move faster and build a strategy founded upon analytical techniques. Whereas what most companies are doing, and this is part of like the broader digitalization efforts, is using data science as a pull from an enterprise center of excellence, and saying, hey, we have got this current business process, we want to make it better. Help build a model to make that X% better.
Okay.
And so I come into those problems as looking for how we can demonstrably link that the statistics, the data analysis and statistical approaches to solving that business problem. Not so much increasing accuracy or having a better classification metric on our models, but actually tying our models to that business outcome.
Okay.
And that's a mindset shift for I'm finding a lot of data scientists.
You mean a mindset shift that is a process that has to take place from when you go into it, or when you're an expert at it, or I'm not.
Yeah. So most data scientists are really interested in the fancy new modeling techniques. They are interested in making the models that already exist a little bit better, and tweaking the models to increase like accuracy or whatever model metric that they have in front of them. There's always a different knob to turn to try to eke out a little bit more technical performance on your models. But ultimately, the business doesn't care about the model performance, they care about the business outcome. And so having a strategic lens on A, what is the business problem? B, how are we aligning to that? And C, how are we delivering to that is something that I haven't come across very many data scientists in having and seeing that strategic approach on how to drive valuable outcomes for the business.
Okay. I'm curious in terms of this value. So the value, you're obviously talking to a lot of non-data scientists because you're talking to, I guess, the finance people, the, the, the manufacturing maybe.
Yeah.
What are some of the challenges associated with translating a data scientist language or vocabulary to, I would say, other areas who are not, they want the model, they want the results, but they're not focused on the specific model you used or the language you used? How do you translate the data science into the business language?
Yeah, so I think that somebody in that equation has to speak the other one's language, and I think it almost always has to be an ask of the data scientist to speak the business language and to make that translation back to the business so that they can continue doing their business process and understand what business logic assumptions are made in the modeling, and in what scenarios they can use this model
Okay.
in the future. And then ultimately the business won't care about, oh, I moved this model from 94% accurate to 95% accurate. It's a meaningless number to them. They care about the dollars and cents, or the number of units made, or number of units shipped, and making that discrete translation for them so that they can see the benefit and then promote that benefit to the broader business. Hey, data science helped me ship 25% more units last month.
Okay, so it's that, instead of talking about my model went from 95 to 97% accurate, with this model we were able to ship 10,000 more boxes of cereal.
Yep, exactly.
Okay. That's good. I think that's a key point that a lot of people need to understand. I know I'm from an engineering background, and I was talking to before, and I go to the how-to, and I like the knobs and they're cool to turn and twist, but I got to get it back into dollars and cents or units or some measurement thing that a lot of other people understand, versus which thermodynamic model or which which compliance model did I use.
Yeah.
That's an excellent thing I had, and I continue to have a challenge with as well, and you've done an excellent job of doing that.
So just to loop back and close one of your previous comments about like what is the specialty or what's my specialty, and I don't have one, but domain experience is also a critical thing to have as a data scientist, because it allows you to make that translation so much more easily. It allows you to speak and understand the business user, the client's problem more completely, and it allows you to dive into the data more in a deeper fashion and know the gotchas of the data, having domain experience. So that's also one way that the data science field is specializing.
Okay, so having that's part of the messy middle you were talking about in terms of not only the specific problems you're trying to solve, but almost developing a understanding there needs to be a translation layer in there somewhere, or to be able to talk in different ways and outside the data science
function. Yep.
Function. Yeah, exactly. You're now moving into a completely different data science. You're moving into the data science of people. So I'm interested to hear about how your journey's progressing. You've done data science, worked in the messy middle, seen the need for value and talking in specific terms, understanding multiple domains. So I'm curious to hear how that's moved your interest in terms of the people part of it.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm moving into people management as a data science manager here in March. I'm really excited about the shift from an individual contributor role to the management level, specifically because I see one of my strengths as tying together that the business needs and the business strategy to the data science, you know, techniques and execution. I'm really interested in clarifying that alignment and ensuring that alignment, and thinking more strategically about how data science plays with the broader business instead of me sitting and coding new models and turning the knobs and increasing model performance, incremental percentage. So I'm excited. I think this plays really well to my strategic value delivery, mindset. That kind of sets me apart from lots of other data scientists. And I'm also really excited because of something I've learned from engaging with the community of followers that I've gained on LinkedIn. I really enjoy helping people grow professionally and personally, and enabling them to make the moves that they're really interested in doing. So I think that's another core component to management is, allowing people room and space to develop professionally and personally, growing where they want to and how they want to, and helping them along that journey. So that's something I've been doing informally on LinkedIn now for a couple of years, and it's really crystallized my enthusiasm for helping people make these changes and get better. So I'm really looking forward to doing it, as part of my day job.
Yeah, you have a very interesting, I know you see occasionally, say, hey, this Friday I'm happy to answer any questions or do one-on-one meetings, which I found really, really unique in terms of giving your time. What's the process? How you have a very clear focus and understanding of the strategic value you bring. Walk me through the process of your discovery of that, because that's something that's can be really hard for people to do. I know I have a hard time with it myself in terms of what is the business value and unique differentiator in the value I bring. So I'm interested to hear kind of how the thought process is formed and guided you to that ability to see that in yourself.
Partly it was because as a new data scientist, I had a huge amount of imposter syndrome. I compare myself directly to my coworkers and see that maybe not see, but feel like I'm technically deficient. I'm not as good as them technically. Don't have as much coding experience or data science modeling, statistical experience, and so I somewhat fell into trying to look for other ways to contribute to the team, and one thing that I found relatively quickly was that I can find the business value, and I can ask those clarifying questions of the business in a way that will elicit a useful response that we can use in the modeling realm. And I kind of doubled down on that because that was my fastest way to add value as an individual contributor.
So basically you leveraged your being new to both data science and General Mills, the manufacturing space too, instead of to basically, let's double down on that and say, okay, I know data science, I'm learning about manufacturing, I'm learning about both. And so adding that almost insider / outsider perspective on things that the different teams were talking about, having an open mind and seeing that.
Yeah, I think coming in from a different industry, from a different job function, really allowed me to not get sucked into the technical execution details, and allowed me to stay very high level and glean those strategic outcomes that we were looking to deliver, and use that as a, way to be well, have differential outcomes in the business, really.
Okay. How did you communicate that to General Mills? Do you remember communicating it specifically, that type of thoughts when you were going through the interview process? It's very challenging to find a company that's willing to look outside their industry. We all have the mindset, I want someone who knows my industry, and how you were able to get past that.
Yeah, I think data science is unique in that while domain experience is sought after, um, for most individual contributor roles, at least at the lower levels, it's not such a big deal to transition and move industries. So that wasn't a huge barrier.
Okay.
I'm trying to rack my brain to think of if I was thinking about strategic level value delivery when I was interviewing with General Mills, and I'm not sure that I did. I think I came into a new environment, to a new industry, and had to separate myself somehow, and decided that asking these strategic questions was how I was going to do it. And I was, again, also using learnings and some self-confidence that I've gained from interacting on LinkedIn in being more vocal, raising my hand more often, asking questions in almost every meeting, to really anybody, if it's a senior vice president, or it's the data scientist that's working with me on my project. So being active on LinkedIn has helped me, broaden my social wings, be more self-confident, and has really clarified the direction that I want to go in my career.
Okay, so the value, your unique value kind of was part of the after starting at General Mills, kind of taking everything you've done before, the LinkedIn, and then building upon that.
Yeah, it's been a continual learning experience, continual building and development experience. And my journey on LinkedIn has definitely helped solidify the direction that I currently have in mind for where I want to go.
So what would your advice be to people who want to pivot to something new? We've talked a lot about kind of your journey, and as you've gone through the process, I'm curious what advice you would leave with people in terms of who are in your position 5 years ago, say in a role, whether it's an industry that's in a downturn right now, but in terms of looking ahead and branching out and having the courage to do so.
Yeah, I mean, I think that everybody needs to do a lot of self-reflection initially. As I mean, if I had not been laid off as a geologist, I don't think well, I definitely would not be a data scientist right now. I wouldn't be in the position where I am right now. I would probably still be a geologist, kind of coasting through my career. So it takes self-reflection to understand what you like, what you're good at, and what you want, not out of just a career, but out of what you want in life. I mean, my pivot has also allowed us to move back closer to family, which is something that we kind of talked about and had no idea how we were going to make that happen. And then once you start having, some clear thoughts on what you want to do, actually commit to making progress on a path towards that goal. It's going to look like a mountain at first. Like how do I transition from being an engineer or geologist to data scientist? And it's kind of the advice is to learn the core competencies of that new field, of that new function. And you got to break it down into small enough chunks that you can make progress on that. Specific to data science, lots of people like doing a structured introduction to the field. So whether that's through like a coding boot camp or an online course somewhere, that's a great kind of handheld way to take your first steps. Eventually, you do need to broaden out and move beyond that, but find the easiest first steps that you can take and make it and turn it into a habit, and build skills that align with that future position that you desire.
I'm curious what you see as the future of data science. I know there's a debate right now in California about whether data science should be taught in school. For me, I'm all for that. Broaden, help the new generation. So I'm curious what you think maybe about that topic, or about the importance of it, learning it at an earlier age.
Great question. I haven't given this much thought. I think that like education, our primary and secondary education could do with more data literacy skills.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not that's learning how to code in Python and building a random forest model to predict something, is probably like something. I don't think everybody needs to know that, but core data literacy skills will help. I mean, not to get political, but there's a lot of misinformation now in the world, and you've got to be able to dissect facts and
Mm-hmm.
figures, and hold your news feeds accountable for misstatements or misleading statistical facts. So I think having more data literacy is probably good. I'm not sure that high schoolers. I I definitely don't think all high schoolers need to learn data science as a field. That seems too far, but certainly there's enough online educational material that's available for free that anybody who wants to learn it can, including high schoolers.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, my son's in just starting. He's a freshman in high school right now, and so I had never thought about in terms of the data literacy, and I guess I take it for granted, being an engineer and dealing with numbers all the time, in terms of trying to make sure he is able to understand information. He's able to translate data into information, and then do something with it, which
Yep.
matches that. Well, thank you for taking the time to speak with me, Matt. I appreciate you sharing with the audience in terms of the path you've taken and the courage you've had in terms of stepping out and doing something completely different. So thanks a lot for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Phil. It's been fun.
All right.
Bye.